So I did the powers of the purse. The first enumerated power of the Constitution is the Taxing and Spending Clause, also known as the General Welfare Clause. What is it? Well, it grants the federal government the power to tax, collect taxes, pay debts, and spend money. It allows the government to promote the general welfare of the people, which is to do its best for its citizens. Why is this important? Well, the clause is meant to deal with taxes, seek ways to help social and economic problems, and promote the general welfare of all citizens. A historical example is the Supreme Court case United States versus Butler in 1936. The court decided that Congress has the power to lay taxes and decide what expenditures serve as the general welfare. The second enumerated power is to borrow money. What is this? Well, it allows Congress to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Why is this important? It allows Congress to have the power to borrow and spend money and run the government as they see fit, because it's important that they're able to use the money how they think is best fit so they can run the government in the way that they think is most efficient. And a historical example is in 1902, where a law authorized debt issuance for the construction of the Panama Canal. That was made possible by the money borrowing clause, and wouldn't have been possible without it. The third enumerated power of Congress is to regulate international and interstate commerce. What is this power? What is this clause? Well, it gives Congress the power to regulate commerce with the foreign nations, within the states, and with the Indian tribes. Why is this important? Well, Congress can use this clause to justify exerting legislative power over the activities of the states and its citizens, and address the problems of interstate trade barriers and the ability to enter trade agreements. A historical example is Gibbons versus Odegen, a Supreme Court case from 1824 where the court decided that Congress has the final say about interstate commerce over the state government due to the Commerce Clause. In this court case, Gibbons was still using his steamboats and traveling them across state lines from New Jersey to New York when he no longer had a permit. But the court's decision was that it was allowed because they have say over the state government due to this Commerce Clause. That's why it is important. Thank you.
So for the enumerated powers of Congress, I did the Fifth and Sixth Amendment, which is about money. Fifth enumerated power, which is about coining money. What is it and what is its importance? Congress has the power to regulate the value of currency and the making of money. How does it work? Congress authorizes all and oversees all subjects of currency, example, banknotes. And if you don't know what a banknote is, it is just a paper bill. And then a historical example, the new $20 bill is set to change by 2030 with Harriet Tubman as the new face of it. For the sixth enumerated power, which is about to provide punishment of counterfeiting, what is it and what is its importance? Congress authorizes investigations and prosecution of counterfeit money. How does it work? Well, Congress has the power to pass a federal statute to punish the creation of counterfeit money. And the Supreme Court ruled that each state decides punishment for the use of forged coin. And then for the historical example, Frank Bourassa sold over $250 million by $20 bills, and he was caught in 2012. But he was let out after 6 weeks to help catch other counterfeiters.
Technical. Lower courts, what is it? Congress can create lower courts that are inferior to the Supreme Court. They created district courts, the map in the bottom right. So each of those numbers are sections, and all the states report all their federal cases to that district court. Why? Lower courts make extremely important decisions every day, and they affect everyday lives. The U.S. Court of Appeals is a court that the Congress made. An important example would be Gill v. Comfy, which gives us the right to film police officers without punishment. Piracy of the sea, what is it? It's forcefully hijacking or stealing a ship in international waters. This basically says that Congress can punish pirates by the law of nations, which means that pirates receive life in jail. Why? Trade is very important, and there's not very many laws regarding international waters. Historic example would be the movie Captain Phillips. Somali pirates captured Captain Phillips' boat and his crew. The Navy SEALs rescued Phillips and the Congress praised Navy for their rescue, and the Senate shared their relief. And then the Congress also said that the president will look into making sure this never happens again and making international water safer. Thank you.
So today I will be talking about some of Congress's enumerated powers, more specifically about bankruptcy and citizenship. So first, Congress has the power to make bankruptcy laws. So the Constitution authorizes Congress in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, the power to establish uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the whole U.S. So pretty much what a bankruptcy is it often offers like an individual or business a chance to start fresh because like they have debts they couldn't pay. So it like forgives the debts that they simply just can't pay. And basically what Congress does is they establish laws that are fair and equal throughout, like that don't change throughout the states about bankruptcy and about what can happen. And people, when they file for bankruptcy, if they can't pay things, then they can lose like assets of value, so like their home or their car. And an example of this in history is a local loan company versus Hunt in 1934. Basically, this man Hunt, he took a loan of $300 and he couldn't pay it. And he was refusing to pay it, so went to court. And the court pretty much established that he had to file for bankruptcy and he lost some of his assets. And secondly is the power to establish citizenship. So it's in the same article, section, and clause as the other one. It's actually the same kind of sentence, but I just split it up because it was a little easier. But it says the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. And I was kind of confused when I first read this because I didn't know what naturalization meant. But it's essentially when you, when a foreigner wants to come be a citizen of the U.S., like what are the laws about them becoming a U.S. citizen? And this is also an exclusive power. Like the states don't have any say in if people from other countries can become a citizen. And 1790, basically, this is when the Naturalization Act first passed and when this became a power of Congress. But it was amended in 1798, and it increased the period necessary for like foreigners, people from other countries, to become citizens from 5 to 14 years. So like essentially, you had to spend that much time in the U.S. before you could become a citizen. And basically, it was passed under the disguise that like they wanted to protect national security. But what people really think is that it was intended to decrease the number of citizens and voters who disagreed with the Federalist Party. And yeah, those are my two powers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ethan Bernstein, and for my first power of Congress, I have building roads. The government will only fund roads if they cross state lines. The federal government prepares the plans for building the roads. The state or county will build and supervise the building of the roads. Roads have a huge part to development and growth and bring important social benefits. One historic example about the building roads is in 1956, the Federal Aid Highway Act established highway systems in the United States. This act authorized the building of the highways. There was a little controversy over this act. President Dwight D. Eisenhower said a modern interstate highway system was important. For my next, I have postal offices. The government's power with post offices is to protect the mail. The Post Office Act in 1792 said that Congress would retain primary control over postal policy. In 1970, the Postal Reorganization Act was passed, and Congress created the United States Postal Service. My historic example is how the Postal Services has delivered mail since the beginning of the country. In the early days, mail was delivered by horseback along postal roads to locate postal offices. to local post offices. Now they are delivered by trucks and planes. For my third is copyright. Patents and trademarks are types of intellectual property. Trademarks cover work and are considered separately from copyright eligibility. Patents are granted by the government. Patents and copyright are for songs, books, and items. People can't make or use your item if you got a trademark, patent, or copyright on it. In 1963, the Beach Boys released Surfin' USA, a classic that captured the life of the West Coast surf scene. The song was, however, a lift of Chuck Berry's Sweet Little 16. These two songs were very similar, and there was a lawsuit on them on to how similar they were, and the song Surfing in the USA got sued.
I'm Marquez Estrada, and I did the militia powers. Just a background of what a militia is. A militia is generally an army or some other fighting organization of soldiers and or citizens of a country who may perform military services during a time of need. So what I did in specifically was Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16. And Clause 15 and 16 basically say that Congress has the power to call and or organize a militia to try and prevent or repel any type of invasion. And the map at the bottom right, all the states in orange have a National Guard. Why militias are important. The militias help protect a country if it's being attacked. It helps add manpower to other militias. It can prevent any other type of enemy invasions. And they can also help regulate issues throughout the states, such as riots or protests. My first historical example is World War II. The National Guard was called in World War II to help add manpower in the battle and also aid those wounded. The National Guard units participated in all combat theaters and took part in 34 separate campaigns and 7 assault landings, sustaining 175,000 casualties. My second historical example was Little Rock 9 of 1957. The National Guard surrounded Central High School to protect 9 black students and helped protect the 9 students from the riots outside and helped escort them out.
Military enumerated powers. The first one is the power to declare war. The power to declare war means that the Constitution grants Congress the power to declare a war. Declaring war is important because it has been used to regulate conduct between the military and other forces in other countries. Congress has declared war 11 times against 10 countries during 5 separate conflicts. The first time was the declaration of war with Great Britain in 1812, along with Mexico in 1846 and Spain in 1898, which is also known as the Spanish-American War, and there are many other examples. The power to raise and support an army is the second one, and this power is used to raise and support the armies. It is important because it allows the United States to fund and provide a strong army. To raise an army means to assemble, collect, and gather together, which is the dictionary definition. Congress has the ability to raise an army by drafting men into the military, and this is involuntary. From 1948 until 1973, men were drafted to fill vacancies in armed forces. During the Vietnam War, between 1964 and 1973, the U.S. military drafted 2.2 million American men out of an eligible pool of 27 million total. The third one is to provide and maintain the Navy. The point of this power is to provide a well-maintained Navy to the United States and people in need. It's important because the Navy is called upon in stress, relief operations, and natural disasters, as well as maintain and protect global sea lanes of trade on which 90% of the goods that we use are transported. The U.S. Navy has a long history of helping natural disasters around the globe in many different countries. The commander of the U.S. Fourth Fleet has ordered all ships and aircrafts to make preparations for Hurricane Ian's expected arrival when Hurricane Ian occurred, along with other hurricanes such as Sandy and earthquakes. The fourth and final rule is make rules for the government and regulation of naval forces. This power is used to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. This power is important because it gives Congress the power to set rules for the behavior of armed forces. On November 28th, a set of rules for the government of the American Navy was debated in Congress. And those are the military enumerated powers.
Okay, so I did my project/homework on DC powers. Before I even start, DC powers means the power that Congress has over DC, or the District of Columbia. So these are the Congress's powers over the District of Columbia. The first one is Congress has the power to review all bills passed by the Council and can prevent them from taking effect. The second one is Congress can also pass legislation for the city without approval from residents or the local government, meaning like House and Senate, etc. And then third, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 basically states that Congress is allowed to have this certain power over the District of Columbia, and I'll read it. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by session of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places, purchased by the consent of this legislator of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, stockyards, and other needing buildings. DC has been found to become a 51st state. Since Congress is in control of DC, they have been actively prohibiting DC into becoming a state. Congress doesn't want DC to become a state because they see DC as a neutral environment. DC is meant to be a place where everyone in government can come to meet in a neutral setting. For this reason, this is why Congress will not allow DC to become a state. An historical example of Congress acting on that. The Congress challenged DC's death with dignity laws. What is death with dignity? The Death with Dignity Act is a permissive law that allows terminally ill individuals to end their lives through the voluntary self-administration of a lethal dose of medication, which is normally pills, expressly prescribed by a physician for that purpose. It's not on the slide, but now that act was actually passed in, I believe, 2016. 2016. It was active 2017. That's all. So, thank you.